Hello, this is Malorian, and this is our tactical team, and this is what I've been waiting for a while, because this one is going to be for the new High Elve book. So this is great news. I've been waiting for this for so long. Of course, you've been seeing me talk about it. I started them. I'm doing the slow grow, and now I finally get to go over the book here. You know, still, Orcs and Goblins, I still love you. You're still my favorite. But for the time being, my mistress is going to be the High Elves. Going in this too as well, I have my drink no more bad beer. I'm going to have some lime vodka. So we'll go through this then. Now, of course, the first thing we're going to attack is the army-wide special rules. And She-Ra, please go upstairs before Mommy's mad at you. Now, the army-wide special rules before were pretty simple. You have always strikes first, right? There you go. That's High Elves. That's your special rule. Well, first of all, they still have always strikes first. That's not different. What is different going into this book is the fact that they don't have a special one that also changes your great weapon, so that you still have it and you don't gain the always strikes last, which makes you lose the always strikes first. So now that happens. So if you're ever running a character that has a great weapon, or if you're running your sword masters or your white lions, they're not going to have always strike first, and they're not going to have rerolls to hit, which really helps change the balance of power for what unit you're going to take, and really makes you say, like, okay, well, if you want to hit hard, sure, you might be hitting first because your initiative is so high, but you're not going to get a reroll to hit. So that's a very big change and something to think about there. Another big change here is the martial prowess. This is basically what you saw before with the spearmen, where you get an extra rank of attacks. But now this is basically for everything. Everything you'd be ranking up, you got this martial prowess. And that's massive, because what that really does is, sure, it was nice for spearmen before, gave them a little bit of a boost, but now this is really saying, you know what, with this army, we're not saying you should be running big hordes. This is now talking about not even like little tiny MSU stuff. We're really saying you should be running at least 3 ranks, 4 ranks so you don't lose any attacks. So basically medium units of infantry. We want to be seeing you run units of 20 white lions. We want to see you 20 models, rather, of sword masters. And it almost is like going back to last edition then with the unit sizes. But it's interesting how they give that to everyone to kind of change the way you're going to be seeing the armies actually being built. And this is for shooting and for combat. So again, archers. Whereas archers before, 5x2, maybe now 5x3, right? Because you're getting those shots anyway. Might as well toss them in there. And then you got ranks. So hooray. Next one here is you got Valor of the Ages. This only matters as if you're up against the Dark Elves, and what it lets you do is re-roll any failed Panic, Fear, or Terror test. This isn't a game changer, but if you're ever up against Dark Elves, it's a nice little bonus. So hooray, it's in the book. It could come up sometimes. Your leadership is so good it probably shouldn't, and you'll probably be around the BSB. But hey, if you ever caught away from the BSB, it's a nice thing to have. Then we go into Lilith's Blessing. Now, this thing here is basically what we had before. Now it's just a fancy name, and it's just +1 to cast with the lore of high magic spells. So instead of getting +1 to dispel, now you're getting +1 to cast with your own lore, which is a great way to make you use your own lore, but at the same time, your own lore is pretty damn awesome. So, hey, now it's even more awesome. So, the next rule here is the Fireborn. Now, of course, we know before, anything with dragon armor, you would have a 2+ ward against flaming attacks. Well, what they've done now is actually put this to a special rule you can attach to wherever you need it. So there you have it, 2+ ward against flaming attacks. It's right there. Jumping down to dragon armor clearly has that. It's heavy armor, but another cool thing is that it gives you a 6+ ward. Now, a 6+ ward is like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of nice. I guess now my Dragon Princes have a 6+ ward. But this book is all about ward saves. We'll be getting into that when we get to Magic, but this is actually a lot bigger than it sounds. Next thing here is also we have these new bows in the army here as well. So it's the ones you see, like the little water bows. What these are bows of Avalorn. And if I'm mispronouncing fluff stuff, I'm sorry, but they're the fancy bows. And they're going to be now strength 4, flaming, with magical attacks that are also -1 to armor saves against armies of destruction. Not armor piercing, that can still stack. But this is an extra -1 against those evil ones. So if you're ever up against Warriors of Chaos, pew pew pew, there's an extra -1 for you. And another nice thing, if you're ever up against Ethereal, you know, okay, I'm against vampire counts. Do I really want to dedicate this character with a magic weapon? Nah, I'll just shoot that guy down from here. Pew pew pew. So great news there. Lion Cloak, same as before. You get +2 armor against non-magical shooting. And then you also have the Ithilmar Barding, which is basically barding that doesn't slow you down. So there you go. That's your army special rules. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and jump to magic. Now, they got their own lore. They call it the lore of high magic, just like before. But listen to this lore attribute. Whenever you cast a spell from this lore, the caster and his unit either gets a 6+ ward, or if they have a ward, it increases by 1, gets better by 1, until it maxes out at a 3+. Yeah, this can stack up huge, especially because it's an 8-spell lore. So if you are there and you start casting this stuff, bam, click, 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 these things can go up very fast. Now, I guess for some of the implications, I might want to talk about these things when I get to the unit, but obviously, this just means lots of shenanigans with the ward save. Whenever you see a ward save, there's ways to buff it. However, remember that it's not on a unit that you pick, it's on the caster in the unit that he's in. So it's going to depend and try to force you to put your character in the front lines. Your character's not going to be back in a bunker because, oh great, my archers have a 3+ ward. Hooray! No, you want to be in the front. But of course, you're probably going to take that 4+ ward, which will then turn to a 3+ ward as long as you cast one spell. So you'll probably be pretty safe. Now, we actually get 2 signature spells with this lore, which is a great thing because, hey, choice is always good, right? Now, the very first one is called Drain Magic, which sounds like before, but this is vastly different. This is another one where it can either be an augment or a hex, and what it's going to do is just remove whatever remains in play are there. So, really, this can be pretty good. Because what this is going to do is, hey, you know, if I didn't want to go and roll all these dice to try and stop something with this, I can just cast this and it'll get rid of that hex. And because you don't always have the dice to get rid of these things here. So that's really not that bad. It's a very low casting to do, whereas sometimes, hey, I might have to throw 4 dice to try and stop this. No, just a couple and it's gone. It doesn't matter if it's on me or if it's on you, I can just get rid of this. So that's not so bad there. And sorry, of course, it's remains in play and any other spells. So it's even the stuff you can't pluck off. So coming from a guy that's actually from War Machine, this is what I call purification as a spell is there. Because just like in this game, in that game, buffs are huge, right? If you get to buff a spell onto a unit, that's big. And of course we see that here, right? If a unit is Mind Razor, amazing. +4 toughness, amazing. But in the past, you just have to eat it. You know what? You got off the spell. I had my chance to the spell. Didn't happen. Now I just have to deal with it. High Elves have another way. Hey, you have Mind Razor. Good for you. Oh, it's gone. Oh, you debuffed me. You had a whole bunch of shadow magic on me. Boom, it's gone. So very, very drastically game-changing spell. And it's one of these things, too, where it doesn't cast much, and so you can always just be throwing a couple of dice at this just to kind of draw out the opponent's dice as well, because there's so much good stuff in here. The next one, it's called Soul Quench. It's either a 2d6 strength 4 magic missile, or you can boost it up to be a 4d6. So, you know, whereas you might see some people spam fire mages to do the big 3d6 fireball, screw the 3d6, go for the 4d6. So a very, very nice, again, offensive, dependable signature spell to have. And of course, it's nothing you need to dedicate to, right? Whenever you're playing, oh, I'm up against shadow magic? All right, let's go with Drain Magic. Oh, I'm going up against something that's low toughness and whatever. All right, I'll go with the Soul Quench. So perfect signature spells to have. All right, the next one here is called Apotheosis, and it's just a healing spell. You pick a target, you heal it by 1, or you heal it by D3 if you boost it up. Hey, We got new monsters. Healing monsters is always a good thing. And this means you don't need to go with the Lore of Life. You could take this and you have another way to heal up. Next one here is called Hand of Glory. What this does here is that either for the target's weapon skill, ballistic skill, initiative, or movement, you get to increase it by D3, or you can do the boosted and increase everything. Clearly, increasing your spells or your stats is a good thing. Sometimes it's not always needed, but it's nice to always have. Also, too, the movement can be big as well, because you have to do this as a prep step. So if next turn I'm going to be charging, I'm going to cast a spell on them, boost their movement, because, hey, who's going to say no to adding D3 to a charge, right? That's good news. So a very nice spell to have, and it's very cheap to cast as well. Sorry, yeah, it's a 5+ as well. Then we have Walk Between Worlds, and this spell, too, is just great. It's another augment, and what you do is you cast it on the unit, and they become ethereal, and then what they can automatically do is move 10 inches in the remaining move phase. So that just really means you can just walk through whatever you want, right? Just go and get to wherever you need to be. There's even one that you get to move them 20 inches. And so even if the ethereal thing wasn't going to be huge, people will say, like, you know, I know Hand of Gork is a big deal, being an Orc and Goblin player. If I could know automatically, oh yeah, it'd be 10 inches if needed, or you can boost it for 20, because I do random, right? I have to roll either 3d6 or 5d6 to know it's going to be automatically 20. That's amazing, amazing. So a really good spell to have. Again, very low to cast. And for all these things that are low, remember, you're getting +1 to cast this stuff. So really, it's actually one less than whatever it says here. So keep that in mind. Then we have Tempest. This is probably the only one where I'm not too hot about it for the lore here. What it is going to be one of your template spells that's direct damage, and it's going to scatter and do some damage at strength 4 and affect to hit rolls and stuff. But really, it's okay, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm not too hot on this one. Next one, though, Arcane on Forging. This is another nice one. You cast it on a guy. First of all, they take a hit, and it's going to be dependent on their armor save. But after that, you randomize one of their magic items, and it's just destroyed. It's just gone. And the nice thing about this is that all the ones that be silly to destroy, like the mounts, it specifies you can't use them, and stuff that would be like the one-time use, which has already been used, so who cares if you destroy it? You don't randomize those either. So if you have some, tyrant, you're going up against ogres, or you want to get rid of the Crown of Command, boom, destroyed. Because there's very few times that people take magic items which are completely useless. So this is going to be a great spell to throw out there. Again, it's something you could probably be casting with, well, 3d6 to be safe. 2d6, if it comes down to it, has a very high chance of getting as well. And then the last one here is called Fiery Convocation. And what this is think of kind of like the flamey one from before, where it's a strength 4 hit to everybody, and then, if they move, that's another one. Except what this is that it's a strength 4 flaming hit to everyone, and at the end of every subsequent magic phase, then it happens again. It remains in play, so it's just like the vampire one, kind of like where if you don't dispel this, you're just going to get hurt, and hurt, and hurt, and die. So obviously, very first turn, boom, you're going to blast this, put into a horde, and start devastating them. Because not only are you going to kill a big chunk of the unit, if it stays on, you're killing their next magic phase as they try and stop this spell. So a great one to have to kill hordes, to shut down the enemy magic. It's just a lore full of awesome spells that have a good toolbox for a whole bunch of different stuff. And yeah, very, very nice to have. Now, let's go over to the magic items. And it seems like they have more than they should. They have 13, which is a little bit more than some others do. It actually looks huge because it's 3 pages, but it's actually, some of the stuff has, this much fluff and then this much rules. So, it's interesting that they did that. It gives you a fun little read. But really, again, like I said, we're here for the rules. First one here is the Blade of Leaping Gold. Kind of like before, it adds 3 attacks. But now, what it also does is that on a 6 to wound, you ignore armor saves. So in a world where armor saves are really starting to come really back up, Nice to have. Lots of attacks. You have that chance of ignoring armor saves. Good to have. Also good against hordes, right? It's always good to have something that's multi-purpose. Then we have the Star Lance. Just like before. And it's going to give you the +3 strength and no armor saves. Nice to have. And they also specify that if you are knocked off your mount or something like that, you have to use a different weapon. So that's right in here and says it right there. Then we have the Reaver Bow. Now this one here is interesting because they said it's strength +1. It's not just like strength 5 or whatever anymore. You get 3 shots with it. And because it's +1, it's kind of neat. Like, why would you do that? But that means that depending on the character you put it on, it'll be either the strength 5 or the strength 3. I assume if you do wild form, you can also make it higher. But the thing that's going to be interesting with this particular item is the fact that different champions can now take magical gear. Now, that was like that before, but before it was like, oh, just take 25 points or whatever. Now you have to take a 25-point weapon. And this is 25 points. So it seems like it's a perfect fit. Some champions are strength 3, some champions are strength 4. Obviously, you'd like to put this onto the strength 4 guy. So interesting to have. Armor of Calidor. This one, it was in the last book. It went up double the points here. But hey, that made sense. It was way too cheap before. Now it's 5 more points than taking the common 2+ save. But you also get the 6+ ward. And we also already talked about how good 6+ or any wards are in this book, right? So if you have your unit with your mage and your combat guys, you're going to have this, maybe a combat character in there who's going to have this. And as you're bumping up their ward saves, this guy's just ahead of the game with a 6+ already. Then you have Shadow Armor. You have a guy that can scout. Situational, more probably for a theme army. If you have some guy that's going to be like a War Machine Hunter or something like that, I guess you could make it work with some sort of hero. I don't know. But it's there either way. Then you have this one that's... this is a steal. This is a great item. The Shield of the Mareworm. Now what this is that, sure, I'll grant you it's a little bit situational, but hear me out. It's a shield that you can only use when you're not using an item that's two-handed weapon. So that makes a sense. That's usually the only time you can use a shield. But what it does is that it makes it so your parry save is a 4+. So, of course, this is a 4+ ward. So if this is on a unit that's in the front, this will be a 3+ ward. So normally, if you want to get a 4+ ward item, we're looking at 45 points. This is 15. Now, granted, you don't get parries against impacts, against stomps, against the flank. But really, as long as you don't allow those things to happen, this is a very cheap way to get a character a 3+ ward. So, fantastic. Then you have the Golden Crown of Atrazar. And what this does is just like the Charm Shield, it gets a 2+ ward save against the first hit. This is a 2+ ward save against the first wound. And it's also a talisman. So if you ever want, you can stack these things together if you have some guy that's flying around and you really want to keep him safe. And it's really cheap. It's just double the points of the Charm Shield. Now we have an item that's kind of odd, because I don't think it really belongs here. And that's Moranian's. I wonder if that's supposed to be like a... Nah. Anyway, Way Sharp. And what this really does is just like how you had the other one that let you become Scout, this one here lets you become an Ambusher. And you could take a unit of either archers or spearmen up to 30 models in size that join him and they can ambush together. Now, ambushing is random. I don't really like it. High Elves don't like to be random. And of course, High Elves like to work together. So, I don't really know why you'd be taking this. It's a lot of points. All of your heroes' gear. I mean, if this could be used on any unit, so I could have like ambushing swordsmen or something cool like that, sure. But because it has to be spearmen or archers, I just don't like it. This should be a wood elf or a beastman or an orc and goblin item, right? I don't think it really fits here. But either way, it's an option. If you want to have fun, there it is. Then you have Kane's Ring of Fury. This lets you take the bound level Soul Quench. So like I said, it's a great spell to have. Hey, let's cast it twice. So I'm doing 8d6 points, 8d6 hits on your unit at strength 4. So that can be very devastating, and it's a very low casting level as well. Then we have the Gem of the Sunfire. What this does is that it's a one use only, but during the turn in which you're using it, all the bear spells, shooting attacks, and close combat have +1 to wound. And this is, and I mean that's okay, provided it also has the flaming attacks. I thought this was actually the unit as well. Now that I see it's not the unit, I'm not as impressed. So that's actually unfortunate. I thought it was going to be a little bit more. This does do the mount as well. So guess what this is for? If you're going to have a character on a dragon and you're going to do the breath attack, hey, all the breath attacks are at +1 to wound, which could be nice. But yeah, I'm actually now not as impressed with that as I was a few moments ago. You have Cloak of the Beards. How the hell did this stay in here? But it really is just something that makes you better against dwarves. So a very situational item, unless you have a chance to destroy their stuff. But here's a key thing that was very interesting of having this in here. So, just like before, we had the Vols on Making that destroy stuff, but you can't destroy things that give you a mount, that are one-use items, that are bound spells, blah, blah, blah. The very interesting thing here is that that same stuff is right here, which would mean to me that they already have in their minds how they're going to be making the dwarf book, and the dwarves are going to be moving, of course, then to having these things where apparently they might have some way of getting a mount, because it lists it here. Why say if it's not possible? And as well, going to having a magic phase, because why talk about things with bound spells in it if they're not going to have it? So again, kind of a silly item that's really situational, but hey, at least it gives us like this Easter egg look forward about how they might be doing the dwarf book. Then you have the Book of Hoeth, and what this one does here is actually kind of like the Wood Elf item there, kind of, where it lets you re-roll the casting or dispel dice, except you can't do the sixes. So, hey, you know, if you ever, the big thing you ever see with the Wood Elves is you take this, if you need to dispel something, great. Oh, I failed for the big, 6 dice try to dispel? Well, let's do it again. So that's a pretty nice thing to have there. Then we have the Banner of the World Dragon. Now, the Banner of the World Dragon has been taking a lot of heat right now because it gives you a 2+ ward for all wounds caused by magical attacks, magic weapons, spells, blah, blah, blah. It also has a silly extra thing where all dragons within a foot are stubborn for some silly reason. Not that dragons ever lose combat, but the whole 2+ wound against magical attacks is massive because, hey, if you ever face demons, well, that army is kind of screwed against this big unit. If you're ever up against skull crushers or something like that, well, you took at scrolled weapons, I guess you're going to have a 2+ ward. So people are really upset about that. I wouldn't be too much. I mean, you've already kind of saw this as a Vampire Counts player. I knew that, hey, if I ever face demons or the woodsmen, like the wood elves with their trees, great. All my ethereal is useless. I spent 300 points on this unit of wraiths, and they're going to be useless. So you already saw these things before. You can always say as well, like, okay, great. I'm playing ogres, and I went up against dwarves, which is obviously lots of good artillery. All right, I'm kind of screwed, right? So these things already kind of existed, and if nothing else, hey, guess what, demons? You had your time in the sun. It's good to have some sort of counter. Plus, not many people play demons now. And finally, this is one unit. You could always just play your same normal anti-Death Star tactics. So whereas before, okay, well, great. I have to go kind of like just redirect this unit here. Exactly the same thing, except whereas before, they're crazy because they're the chosen star or something like that. Now they're a unit with a 2+ ward against you. So not that big of a deal, but either way, a very nice item to have. And of course, good for protecting your characters too, because I mean, if you're going to have somebody zipping in to try and kill your characters, hey, guess what? If you have a magic weapon to make you better, sucks to be you. Alright, let's go talk about the lords. So, lord number 1, the prince. Same as before, you got all your items. You could go on some kind of more interesting things now. Like you can go on, of course, those different chariots and stuff. The sun dragon is better. I actually thought that they'd probably be able to go onto the phoenixes, but I see that they can't. So actually, they have the same mounts as before. That's actually kind of disappointing. Either way, now we go on to the Archmage. The Archmage can go on all those steeds as well. So that's really fun. Of course, the big thing with the Archmage is not the Archmage. It's the fact that, hey, I can now take that awesome lore. Now we get to a new lord. And this one's called the Anointed of Asuran. And this is the guy that actually can be mounted onto one of the phoenixes. So if he's not on a phoenix, you might be putting him into a unit because he gives the whole unit a 6+ ward. And wards are good because you can boost them, blah, blah, blah. But he is a lot of points. So I don't know if you'd be doing that for the 6+ ward. You're probably going to take him because you want to put him onto the regular Flamespire Phoenix, because I guess we'll be getting to him later. But what these guys do is when they die, it's kind of like the whole thing with the Hell Pit, where you put a token and they can get back up. But this one keeps going. So on a 1 or a 2, they're dead forever. For a 3 to 5, they do like a big blast, and then you wait again another turn. And on a 6, it comes back to life. If you take a character, the character would come back to life with it, but you're also making it so you get +1 to your rolls. So now you're only dying on a 1, and on a 5+ you come back. However, you're almost doubling the cost of the monster, so I don't really like the option. But either way, it's there. You can take some gear. Maybe there's some sort of crazy option you can come up with, but for the most part, not really a big fan. There might actually be a better combo putting him onto the Frostheart Phoenix, but that's something we'll have to investigate. Nothing really flashes out to me from the very beginning. Now, this next guy is amazing. He is the lore master of Hoeth. He's the guy that's throwing the jellyfish in a picture. Now, what he is he's a lord. He's basically a sword master lord. But what he also has is he's a level 2 that knows every single signature spell. So not only is this guy the perfect guy to go with your level 4 to having all that good coverage for magic, if you could fit into your lord allotment, but he could probably just do it all by himself. You know, he knows 8 different spells because he knows all the 8 different signature spells. And just the toolbox that gives you and the certainty. You know, it's not like somebody else where you go into it like, oh, you know, there's that chance that even though I have a very good chance of getting Foot of Gork, I might not get it. These guys, you'll know you have all the spells. And you got Wild Form. You got the Fireball for the first turn. You got Soul Blight. You got all these amazing Spirit Leech. Man, you got all these really good signature lores that this guy can just have them all right away. You can also go and change him and give him 100 points of gear. And one of the things I really like about this is that, you know, he comes with a great weapon. So with the great weapon, you can't give him the shield that gives him the parry save of a 4+. But if you give him a magic weapon, then he doesn't have a great weapon because you default to the magic weapon, and then he has that 4+ ward. So this guy, for not too many more points, could be a great guy to be in the front, and so he'd be a very strong combat character who could always put the Dispel Scroll on too, because he's a wizard, right? And he's the whole package. He's your fighter, he is your caster, and really the only negative is that he's a level 2 rather than a level 4. A very viable option, if you ask me. Now we're going to go down to our heroes, because I'm not going to touch on the special characters right now. There's one, the Everqueen, that I think is really amazing, but for the most part, I'm not going to touch on those now. I'm going to touch on them later. Another thing talking about later, I was supposed to be doing this with Kieran, but I really couldn't get the stuff to work together. I'm doing this as a regular video as opposed to a hangout just because there's been some errors lately and I don't want this to be lost. So here we go. But we're going to be doing another one next week. We're going to be touching on some more interesting things. So there you have it. By the way, check out his channel, Kieran Dunleavy, because he also found a way to make 2 phoenixes from a very interesting conversion from just getting 1. So you guys might want to check that out. But anyway, let's go to heroes. You have your noble. Nobles like before. Yeah, nothing really too crazy there. Then you have your mage. Nothing really too crazy there. Then we get to the Dragon Mage. Dragon Mage, last book, garbage. Nobody took him. Dragon Mage, right now, amazing. Great. Why? 2 big reasons. Reason number 1, the dragon he's on got 2 better in his armor save. He's not a 5+. he's now a 3+ armor save dragon. So you don't have to worry about him getting kind of killed in combat and killed by little stuff. Number 2, the Dragon Mage has the option for Dragon Armor, which means you can give him other magical armor, which means that as long as you give him an enchanted shield for 5 little points, he has a 2+ armor save. That sounds great to me. Now you have this guy as before. It's like, oh, I can do some fire magic, but I really don't want to get into combat. And I was like, yeah, throw him into combat. You're good to go. This is a guy where it's just a monster. You can throw him around. He's killing stuff. It's not really that many points when you think of what you're also getting with him. And, yeah, just really nice change to the model. So I think you're going to be seeing these guys a lot more. And we'll also go with an overall list, which I'll cover in the end if I can get through it in time. You have a guy called the Lothern Sea Helm. He's like your special character Sea Guard guy. And he can do one or two things. If he's on the Flying Chariot, which we'll get to soon, he gives it a 4+ war. Okay, that's cool. If he's in a unit, whenever the unit is charged, you get to do a combat reform. That's amazing. Because what that really means is that, let's say you're playing Sea Guard. You got bows. You have spears. It's always a question of how should I deploy so I get the most from the shooting and from the combat. Well, no. Well, of course, now you get 3 ranks to shoot from. So now I'm just going to go as wide as I need to be, as big as I am. For 3, shoot, 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 shoot. Oh, I got charged? Boom. I got all my ranks. So, very nice guy to have. And of course, he can go into other units as well. But hey, the other thing is here too. Oh, damn, I just got charged in the flank? No, I didn't. You got some pretty nice things there. The only thing I can say that's bad about him is the point cost and the points that you're paying to get this nice toolbox. So, is he going to be a must-have? God, no. Is he going to be a nice thing to have? Yes. So in bigger games, I can see him, but this is almost be a thing where maybe you could take him because you're being a little bit cheeky, right? Like, okay, I'm moving up here with my big block. Oh, damn, you got me in the flank. Oh, I can't believe you pulled this off. Ah! Now I combat reform and kill your guys. So maybe it'll be like a good noob, like killer type thing. We can like draw in their guys, but for the most part, probably leave them at home, but kind of like smirk at them now and then. Then you have the Handmaiden of the Everqueen. This guy makes your other kind of new archers better, giving them the quick fire. But also she's nice because she gets the special banner if you're taking the Everqueen. We'll be talking about this when we talk about the Everqueen. But for right now, she's just another lady that at least has that bow, right? If you wanted to take a noble BSB, why not pay a few more points? You get a cool bow. And if you ever want that one flaming shot to take off regen before other things go, hey, that might be the way to go. But for the most part, if you take the Everqueen, that's where she comes in. Or if you're going crazy with that other unit because you're running these guys like Wood Elves. Let's get to Core. Core got bigger. Now we have Spearmen, Archers, Sea Guard, Silver Helms, and the Reavers, the fast guys, the fast cab guys that you never saw before. It's nice to have options. And this now gives you the option to really theme your force. Like I said, if you want to go with the whole Wood Elf thing and go like fast running around, you got your fast of Reavers right there. If you want to go for a Knight Army, because you're going with Caldor or whatever they're called, great. Take your Silver Helms. You can really theme your army now because you have all these different options. So very important to see here. The points also went down from before, so hey, that's always good as well. But yeah, just always good to have all these different options, and that's really all that needs to be said right there. I'll talk about more about this when we get to the very end, but as far as saying like right now, what should you take? It really depends on what type of army you're making. It's like the other books where you could do a lot of different themes with this. I had hoped that the other regular chariot, the Tyrannoc chariot, the regular chariot was going to be core as well. Didn't happen, but that's a lot of options anyway. Let's get the special. Special is 2 pages long. We have the Lion Chariot, which got cheaper. We got the White Lions, which got cheaper. And that's because now they don't have ice. They're not going to be re-rolling to hit. The other thing, too, is this is where you have a champ that can take the 25 points, take that bow, so you get 3 strength 5 shots. Not a bad thing to do if you have the points available. Um, the other thing here is you got your Sword Masters. They went down in points. Your Shadow Warriors. They went down in points. And, again, you might want to use them. Now they're Bliss Skill 5 and stuff. I'm not actually sure. Maybe they were before as well. But, yeah, maybe if you're doing the whole Wood Elf thing, you can make that work. Let's go to the winner right away here. Phoenix Guard. Phoenix Guard before, you didn't really see them. They don't have the damage output. Sure, it's great that they have... Sorry. They have a 4+ ward, but who really cares about that if you're not going to kill anything? Well, what if all I have to do is cast one spell and it's a 3+ ward? That's a different deal now, isn't it? Now, so what you're going to probably see is there's your big block, whether it's going for the elite thing and just taking 20 or 30 and they're just going 5 wide, or hell, you might see the Death Star and see tons of these guys. But then you're going to see the character in there with the mage with a 4+ ward, cast one spell, the whole unit has a 3+ ward. Very tough as nails unit. And of course, if you get any other type of spell off on these guys, they're just amazing. Strength 4 at the end of the day isn't that bad. If you run somebody else that's running Beast or something, going for a wild form, why not? These guys, I'd be scared about them, and I would expect to see them. Just like you expect to see Skull Crushers and Chimeras and a Demon Prince if it's ever Wars of Chaos, I would expect to see some Phoenix Guard. Dragon Princes, they're here. Again, they start now with a 6+ ward, so you could try to make this work. You could mount a character, put with them in there. So just like how the Vampire Counts player, like running the Cavalry type Death Star, you might be able to pull off with these guys. You have to cast more spells if you want to try and make them anything super, but hey, it's a possibility. Get off 2 spells, they have a 4+ ward, right? Not too bad. Then we get to the Sky Cutter. This is the thing where it's a flying chariot with the eagle, and it's a bolt thrower. The bolt thrower is weaker. It's one weaker than a regular one, but hey, it's under 100 points. That's great for a throwaway unit. It's great for a mobile war machine, because one of the things that always happened before is if you ever took bolt throwers, they kind of just died, right? Because you only got 2 wounds on the thing, and, guys got around it, killed it, there's 100 points in the bank. This thing here, it's almost like Outriders. You're getting close to me? All right, I'm gone. I'm over here, right? So very nice to have. And of course, being a chariot, well, that's great. You're coming at me at chaff? I'm actually not going to fly away. I'm just going to charge you and kill you. So for 5 points less than what the old bolt thrower used to be, now it's also a chariot. Of course, the strength went down, but hey, you have all these options on it. And because this is special, and the other one's in rare, the regular one, you could be running a lot of bolt throwers. So if you're running the gunline High Elves, you can really max this out. Then you have your regular chariot. It went down points as well. You can actually take them of units of 1 to 3 now. So that's pretty interesting, just like the other chariots can go. So you can actually get a lot of chariots here. I mean, it's all in special, but hey, you get to put 50% of your points in special. And yeah, that could work out to a lot, because you could be having 9 of the regular chariots, 3 lion chariots, and 3 of the sky cutters. And that's a lot of chariots if you weren't keeping up. So, of course, overall, the big winners, I'd say, would be the Phoenix Guard. You might also be seeing the Dragon Prince thing going down. But overall, yeah, that's the big winners. Of course, honorable mention going to the Sky Cutter, because it is going to be kind of situational depending on what you're running. But definitely very nice, something to take. Let's get the rare. Rare, you have the Bolt Throwers, like I said. You could take up to 4 normally, 8 in a Grand Army. They'll boost up just like the Spear Chukkas, and the points went down. So that's fantastic, because they only have 2 wounds, whereas other ones have 3, and that can be a big deal. Eagles. Let's talk about Eagles. Eagles are kind of the same. They have 2 upgrades now. You can give them Always Strike First or Armor Piercing. Don't do that. Not worth it. But now they're 1+, and that does 2 big things. Number 1, if you take 2 of them, it's a unit. And a unit of flyers that's more than just 1 model can Vanguard. So just like how people like Vanguarding up Pegasus, whatever. Now your Eagles can also do that to really get out there and get the jump on things. So what you can start seeing with this too is doing some combat Eagles, right? What if I start taking 4 Eagles, a unit of 4 Eagles? Well, what a unit of 6 right? And of course, you can start going for ranks of eagles. Let's go crazy. Let's go Malorian crazy and take a horde of eagles. Is this stupid? Maybe, but look at this potential. You go up with your eagles and vanguard to the flank. You're on the side board edge. Now, you're guaranteed next turn to charge in, and it's up to your opponent about whether they're going to give up a flank or not. In your magic phase, and you have a lot of magic here, you buff the hell out of these guys. You know, they're not bad. They're eagles, strength 4, toughness 4, 2 attacks, they got a stomp. Put wild form on these guys. Blah! They're killing stuff like crazy, right? This is something that can be very offensive and very powerful if you want to go for it. And of course, you can always lower life these guys, right? You can go with lower life and raise these guys back up. You can give them +2 toughness, make them crazy. As much as people might be laughing at it right now, I would say somewhere down the line, someone is going to take a horde of eagles, and their opponent is going to be in for a big surprise. All right, then we get on to the phoenixes. There's 2 different ones, of course, like we said. There's the Flamespire Phoenix, which starts off with a ward save, which is nice. It can fly over things. It does damage. It does D6 strength 4 hits, plus an extra D3 for every rank. It's okay, but the big thing about this is that it's not massive. I know one of the rumors going into it is when it flies over something, it puts down the flame template. This isn't a flame template. This is D6 hits. This isn't even enough to kill a chaff unit. So yes, if you're playing like the Wood Elf style army of shoot, run around, these guys can like be flying over things and doing damage and whittling it down. But overall, it's not enough damage to justify the point cost. For the same point cost, I could just do the same damage with a bunch of archers. So I'm not so big on that. The big reason why people would take this, like I said, is because they might come back. But it's only coming back up on a 6, and if you want to be on a 5+, you have to take a character. If the character dies first, then it doesn't even happen, and you're doubling almost like the cost of the unit. So I'm not really, as much as I like the look of the flaming guy, I'm not a fan. Then we get to the Frostheart. Now the Frostheart is stronger, is tougher, only has a 5+ armor, but what it has is also another attack and another weapon skill. This is your combat bird. You would think it's an ice phoenix. This will be like the graceful thing that's a support thing. No, this is a combat monster. And what it also does is when you're in combat, it makes it so you're -1 to wound. So basically in combat, this guy is going to be toughness 7. And if you put a character on the top, he's basically going to be +1 toughness as well. So this is where you might be putting the character on this guy. And it's only really the one that can go on him. The what's-his-face. I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about. Now I want to know because that's bugging me. The Anointed of Asuran. So it would have to be him, but hey, you're making him better just by being on your back. Again, you're probably not going to go that way because it's boosting up his point cost so much, but I'm sure somebody's going to come up with some crazy combo that's going to make it all worth it in the end. So personally, I would, if I'm going to be playing this, automatically, just like how you might see 2 of the Chimeras, you're going to see 2 of these guys. They're just great. They can fly around, and plus, whenever they're in combat, they're giving always strikes last to the enemy, which can be pretty big. I mean, sure, a lot of your guys have always strike first, but hey, what if they also have always strike first? Because they're the Vampire Lord. That's the Blender guy or something. Boom. You used to have always strike first, now you don't. And that makes a very big difference. So, very nice to have. Finally, we have the Sisters of Avalorn. They're your guys, which are... It's kind of funny, because before this book came out, people were going crazy for the Handmaidens. I have about 15 of them. I thought, hey, let's actually make them Sea Guard and make them a little bit bigger. And people were trying to sell these things for like $10 a model. Well, I'm sorry, but looking at the pictures, they weren't even going to be here. So you're paying tons of points for Sea Guard? So here we have these guys. They're basically like them, but they don't even have spears. These are just super archers. So we already talked about them. They're going to be having strength 4. It's already with the -1 armor save, blah, 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 magical, blah, all these things. They're not that expensive. They're about as expensive as archers used to be. So really, if you have free points in rare, why not? You probably won't have free points in rare, though, because you're going to be taking these phoenixes, the eagles, and maybe the bolt throwers. So And again, maybe you're going to take these guys if you're doing mock wood elves, but otherwise, I'm not a big fan of them. So that's all the units in here. So let's start talking about overall impressions of the book. It is really good. There's a lot of neat, interesting options in here. They really push the fluff and the theme in the book and really give you the options to do that. However, there's 2 tournament builds I'm worried about that are going to be dominating the tournament scene. Number 1, the monster build. The monster build, sure, we have the Warriors of Chaos to do the monster mash. You got your Demon Prince, you got your Chimeras. Well, what do we have here? What we have is core that can be not just silly dogs or something to make it fast. I can either be taking Silver Helms, which are fast and can hit hard, or I can also be taking my Fast Cav, which can go around and destroy those war machines really fast. Past that, I can have my level 4 with a lower life on a dragon, the Star Dragon, or whatever I can afford, and give him a 4+ ward. Now as I'm flying around, I'm going and I'm healing stuff up. Fantastic, right? Going to go great. And I have 2 other items as well I can be putting on there. Okay, I can't take the Charm Shield for her, but I can take also the Crown for her. So I have a 2+ ward against the first wound, right? Really good stuff. Going around, flying around. For my heroes, I'm going to be having my Flame Mage going around with my now better dragon that has a 3+ armor, and the rider has a 2+ armor. Then going past that, for my shooting, I'm having my Flying Chariots, my Sky whatever. God, I can't. All these new names, I can't get them. They're the Eagle Chariots. So Eagle Chariots with the Bolt Throwers flying around, right? Doing the extra damage as I need to it as I'm getting in position. Then, I also have my Phoenixes. I could have 4 Phoenixes maybe, 2 of each type. And so what you're going to see here is an army that's just flying around and engaging as they want to. Or maybe not engaging whatsoever. Think about this. This could be taking the Fast Cav, which is the archers shooting. I don't have to engage you whatsoever. Run around, fly, 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 and whenever I finally see a weakness, boom, I charge in and I just destroy you. Oh, you do a few wounds to me? Heal, heal, heal with my lower life? Oh, great. I'm all back ready to go. So this could be very scary and very dangerous. And the big difference here is whereas the Chimeras and the Demon Prince, for the most part, need to get into combat, whereas the Chaos are all about that. Just think of it. I could be staying back and doing it with all these bolt throwers and the magic as well. I guess the magic kind of cancels out there. But I got flying around war machines, which could just go around taking out your monsters or anything that's coming after me. So, yeah, this could be a very scary build to face. I already told my brother about it, Borgnine, and he's like, yeah, that'd be bull. So, that's the first one. Tournament build number 2, the Ward Save Army. This is going to have your big unit of the Phoenix Guard with all the main characters in there that you need. Or the characters, including the BSB, will be in a secondary unit, which is going to then have the Banner of the World Dragon for the 2+ ward against magical attacks. Now, what I think is actually the perfect unit to use that for is Silver Helms or the dragons, the Dragon Princes. Now, why would it be Silver Helms? Because they're core, and your core has to be into something. But either way, this means that your BSB has still the opportunity to take a 2+ armor. So if you're ever fighting something that's not magical, you get to have this. But you got this unit that if I ever see demons or anything like that, great. It's a free win there. It's only a 50-point banner, so it's not like I'm pouring in like 100 points or something. And as well, this might be an also good place to keep your characters, because like I said, whenever you have like a character fight where you're up against them, great. Your characters or guys with magic weapons are now useless. Thank you for taking that magical weapon. Thank you for taking that ogre blade. You now have no chance against me. So, yeah, that could be very good. And that's pretty much, I mean, right there, you could have like those 2 units and an eagle. You're legit. What are you going to do? You're up against a horde of Silver Helms, a horde of the Phoenix Guard, maybe even bigger, and then an eagle and characters in there. Where are you going to get your points? How are you going to win? Both of those armies are going to be very frustrating, and this is the dark side of the High Elves, where sure, they'll be very competitive, but it's not going to be fun to play against. So hopefully most people will go with more of a balanced army approach. If you do that, there's so many options in here. Like for my games with my brother for the slow grow, there is so much stuff I can do in here that'll be fun. And you know, if you just take one Phoenix or something like that, that's fine. It really is only if you really push it to craziness that all of a sudden it's a very big deal. So overall, you know, you got some amazing lore, some amazing new characters. We'll go over some lists next week when I do this with Kieran. But yeah, just an amazingly good book. Good both in the fact that it can be so many different options. If you're a fluff player, all the fluff is here. You can build all these different guys. You can make a Sea Guard army. You can make your Swordmaster army. But also, it's good for tournament strong, where, man, like these guys, you're going to see them in tournaments. They're not going to be some other one like, oh yeah, you know, demons just came out and they're kind of weak and kind of silly and kind of random. You're going to see these guys for sure and in the top tables. So there you go. Especially if you have any other questions or if you don't agree with me, if you come up with something, post it down below. Of course, I'm going to have lots more Orc Tactical teams coming up after this one, talking about the special characters, stuff like that. Of course, I'm going to be talking to Kieran Dunleavy next weekend. He's been playing High Elves for a long time, so it'll be interesting to see his take on it. But there you go. There's the book, and have fun. Bye.